Translator, Dark Angel, Kurisu. The eldest imperial prince let out a long breath, as if a great stone had finally rolled off his chest. At last, the opposing bidder had lifted the price, and now his 20 million was secure. Ling Han chuckled and said, "Old dog, if I were to suddenly have a change of heart and refuse to continue bidding right now, would you collapse on the spot from the shock?" "Hang, it's only a trifling 20 million. It hasn't reached the point where I'd take it to heart." In front of so many eyes, how could Chen Yunxiang throw away his face and shrink back? He steadied his mind at once and replied with forced composure. "This esteemed guest on the third floor, are you bidding or not? If not, then please do not interrupt," the auctioneer reminded. "Of course I'm bidding. Money is nothing but worldly dross." Ling Han smiled faintly. 30 million! Pooh! The eldest imperial prince had only just lifted his teacup to calm the fright from that earlier moment, yet the instant he heard 30 million, he spat out the mouthful he had just sipped. Fortunately, he twisted his head at the last second. Otherwise, had that tea sprayed onto the female attendant waiting beside him, his reputation would truly have been ruined to the bone. Cough! 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 He choked and coughed without end, his whole face flushing crimson, and said, "Young Master Han, did you just bid 30 million? "That's right." Ling Han laughed as he spoke. "I assume that with your Imperial Highness's wealth, a loan of 30 million would be nothing more than a light drizzle." "Drizzle, your sister! That was 30 million silver coins, not 30 million raindrops." "Young Master Han, are you trying to kill me?" the eldest imperial prince asked through gritted resentment. If Ling Han couldn't produce that sum, wouldn't the debt fall onto his head? That was entirely possible, considering they were sharing the same private room. 30 million. The very thought of it made the eldest imperial prince's face turn black. In 5 years, he could earn only 10 million. "Hey!" Ling Han merely smiled, offering no explanation. In the private room on the second floor, Sun Ziyan laughed loudly and said, "This pampered wastrel, how stupid! He's thrown 30 million straight into the water like that. Ha ha ha! Come, keep bidding." Chen Yunxiang also glanced at Sun Ziyan, bitterness hidden deep in his eyes. "With a single word from you, I have to raise the bid?" That was 30 million. If Ling Han truly chose to stop bidding, then he would have to sell off at least 1/3 of the Chen clan's properties. By then, he would be even less capable of enduring Ling Han's malicious, low-priced competition. The 31 million. Chen Yunxiang forced the words out through clenched teeth. Once this bid left his mouth, he felt his heart pounding abnormally fast, as if it would leap straight out of his throat. He had lived for so many years and had never spent 30 million in a single stroke. No, he had never even spent 10 million in a single stroke. Such a sum made the blood surge upward. His face turned completely red, as though his head might explode at any moment. The eldest imperial prince exhaled again, relief mingled with lingering terror. When he raised a hand to wipe his brow, it came away with a sheen of cold sweat. 30 million, not just him. Perhaps even the current Reign Emperor would have to weigh such a sum carefully before spending it. How wonderful that an idiot had chosen to take up the baton. He stared fixedly at Ling Han, deciding that if Ling Han showed even the slightest sign of continuing to bid, he would intervene to stop him. Ling Han smiled. If he halted right now, Chen Yunxiang would surely want to die. This was an excellent chance to crush the Chen clan, yet Ling Han did not wish to miss those 3 swift cloud talismans because of it. 40 million! Like a sudden thunderclap that left no time to cover one's ears, he threw out a fresh bid. With a pa, the chair beneath the eldest imperial prince actually shattered. It was because he was too agitated and lost control of the origin power within him. That slipping origin power directly blasted apart a chair made from high-grade sandalwood. "Young Master Han, your joke has gone too far." The eldest imperial prince shook his head. He absolutely could not produce such a terrifying sum as 40 million. Thus, if the Spirit Treasures Pavilion came forward forcefully to demand payment, he could only draw a clear line between himself and Ling Han. After all, it was Ling Han who had made the bids. Naturally, the money should come from Ling Han. He sat there with his heart hanging in midair, while over there, Chen Yunxiang naturally released a gasp of relief. This time, no matter what happened, he would not raise the bid again. When Sun Ziyan saw this, a cold smile lifted the corners of his lips, and he said, "Mister, may I ask, if someone who has made a bid cannot produce the payment, how is the matter handled? Naturally, according to the rules of our pavilion, the offender's cultivation is crippled completely, and he is forbidden from stepping into the Spirit Treasures Pavilion forever." The auctioneer replied at once. "Good." Sun Ziyan snorted coldly and said, "I suspect that honored guest on the third floor cannot produce this sum, and has been engaging us in a malicious price war all along." "And?" The auctioneer's gaze turned grim. "Since young Master Sun has raised such doubts, then I shall go confirm it." He turned and left, walking into the backstage area. The eldest Imperial Prince's face darkened instantly. If they were driven out for being involved in a malicious price war, what would become of his reputation? Wait, could this brat have done it on purpose? Deliberately making him suffer public humiliation and helping his third younger brother sweep away every obstacle? He had only just finished that thought when he saw the auctioneer return. The auctioneer said, "I have just confirmed with one of our pavilion's senior officials. That esteemed guest is absolutely able to produce 40 million. Furthermore, even if that esteemed guest does not have a single copper coin on him, our pavilion is willing to grant him a credit limit of 1 billion. Poop, 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 poop! Everyone choked and erupted into uncontrollable coughing. A credit limit of 1 billion. What kind of concept was that? Ling Han would not need to spend a single cent, and could simply carry home an auction item worth 1 billion, because the Spirit Treasures Pavilion would advance the funds for him first. Such an honor. Could even the clan heads of the 8 great clans enjoy such treatment? The eldest Imperial Prince gaped, eyes wide with a powerful astonishment. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion held Ling Han in far too high regard, didn't they? They not only granted him a private room on the 3rd floor, but even extended a credit limit of 1 billion. Just thinking of it made even him burn with envy at such preferential treatment. Ling Han smiled calmly and said, "Since my wealth has been confirmed, then to be fair, your wealth should be confirmed as well. I, too, suspect whether you two are actually poor and have merely been dragging me into a malicious price war." The moment these words fell, Sun Ziyan and Chen Yunxiang's expressions changed at once. They truly could not produce 30 million in cash. Heng! I am a member of the Sun clan. How could it be possible that I cannot produce a mere 30 million? Sun Ziyan said, forcing the words out with great momentum. If those words came from the Sun clan's head, that would be fine. But for a mere junior of the clan, being able to produce 3 million would already be impressive. Someone laughed mockingly. It was naturally one of Sun Ziyan's rivals. That's right. It must be investigated, otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Another person joined in for the excitement. A young and quick-tempered man like Sun Ziyan naturally had made quite a few enemies. Usually, they would hesitate before each other's clan power and not press the issue too hard. Yet now, of course there were people eager to strike when he was down. "Please cooperate, young Master Sun," the auctioneer said. Since Ling Han's wealth had been confirmed, it was only natural that Sun Ziyan and Chen Yunxiang must be investigated as well. Otherwise, it would not be fair. The most important thing in an auction was fairness, and what everyone detested most was a malicious price war. Immediately, someone from the Spirit Treasures Pavilion entered Sun Ziyan and Chen Yunxiang's private room. After some time, the auctioneer said, "From the results of our investigation, the total cash that young Master Sun and old Master Chen can pay amounts to 9 million, which is very far from their bid of 30 million. When these words sounded out, quite a number of people curled their lips into cold smirks. If they were not elites of spiritual ocean tier, who had come specifically for the foundation building pills, who would actually carry more than 10 million on their person? This time, Sun Ziyan had truly smashed his own reputation to pieces. Sun Ziyan and Chen Yunxiang were immediately cast out of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, because it was Chen Yunxiang who had made the bids, and he possessed no cultivation at all. There was no cultivation to cripple. However, there was no way the two of them would be allowed to step into the Spirit Treasures Pavilion again for the rest of their lives. Editor, Kurisu. Because a venomous price war had been stirred up, the earlier round of bidding was naturally wiped away as though it had never been. Ling Han once more named his price, and with ease bought the 3 swift cloud talismans at 10 million. Practically no one raised a counterbid, for all understood Ling Han's depth of wealth. He had not even blinked when he flung out 40 million like loose copper. And what was even more frightening was that terrifying credit limit of 1 billion. If someone truly offended him, then when an item they coveted appeared at the auction and Ling Han stepped in to contend, who among them could possibly compete? Before long, a representative of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion personally delivered the 3 swift cloud talismans. As for payment, he naturally had no need to hand over a single coin at present. Rather, it would be the Spirit Treasures Pavilion that would be handing money to Ling Han. The eldest imperial prince was both astonished and curious. Where had Ling Han obtained such an ocean of wealth, and how had he won such serious regard from the Spirit Treasures Pavilion? He had naturally carried out his own investigation into Ling Han's origins. Aside from that brief span shortly after his birth, this fellow had been nothing more than a village boy. Within the borders of the imperial city, the Ling clan did not even qualify as a true clan. Yet Ling Han had abruptly risen, and his ascent had taken more or less only half a year. This was truly a miracle that no one could see through at all. The auction continued. After a few ordinary trifles, the 3rd foundation building pill finally appeared upon the stage in a glorious display. The eldest imperial prince at last resolved to cast everything into this gamble. However, many others harbored the very same thought, and in short order, the price of the treasured pill was driven up to the lofty sum of 20 million. The eldest imperial prince could only stare, secretly cursing his own hesitation at not acting decisively the previous 2 times. And now, with his 20 million, he could not even seize a single pill. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion seemed able to sell nearly anything one could imagine. Not only alchemical pills and ornamental pieces, they also offered various ingredients, cultivation techniques, and martial arts techniques. There were even treasure maps mixed in. However, there were no spirit tools placed for auction this time. Otherwise, Ling Han truly would have wanted to obtain one for himself. Because the martial arts and cultivation techniques on the block were far too low grade, Ling Han naturally had not the slightest interest. He was all but nodding off where he sat. In any case, he had no need to buy the foundation building pills at all. The 4th pill, the 5th pill, and the 6th pill were swiftly auctioned away. As the number of foundation building pills dwindled, the price climbed higher and higher. The 8th pill was even sold for the sky-high sum of 28 million. That was more than double the price of the 1st pill. This caused that spiritual ocean tier elite of the Li clan to laugh in delighted satisfaction for quite some time. Though the 13 million he had paid earlier made his heart ache, compared to the current price, he was naturally pleased to have purchased it for only that much. Only a single pill remained. Without question, the final price of this last foundation building pill would surely smash through 30 million. Heaven only knew when there would be new foundation building pills again. 20 million. Sure enough, the moment the base price of 5 million was announced, someone immediately thundered out a bid of 20 million. It was only natural that the last pill would be worth more than 20 million. So what was the point of wasting time with petty bids below that? Ling Han could not help but clap and said, "I like that sort of person." Very straightforward. Lu Yutong and Li Xichan both covered their mouths and let out soft laughter. Who would not like someone who was delivering money into his hands? Meanwhile, the eldest imperial prince was faintly perplexed. He believed Ling Han himself to be a straightforward man, and thus admired such a character as well. And he could not help but honestly ask himself whether he was a straightforward person. If he was not, would it be very difficult for him to befriend Ling Han then? 25 million. There were quite a number of people with forthright temperaments. Another immediately added 5 million. 26 million. 27 million. 28 million. 29 million. It was as though 30 million were a new threshold. After the last bid rang out, silence fell upon the hall. For the moment, none followed with another bid. The publicly acknowledged value of a foundation-building pill was around 10 million. Yet because buyers were abundant and no one was truly willing to sell, the astronomical price above 20 million had naturally come into being. However, no one's money fell from the heavens, so they naturally could not spend without restraint. Moreover, aside from alchemists, who could actually produce such a vast sum exceeding 10 million? Such an amount would certainly be the collective savings of a faction, so how could it be tossed away so heedlessly? Most of a martial artist's time was devoted to cultivation, so where would they find time to earn money? For instance, within the Ling clan, a few hundred people labored in business and earned coin to support the few dozen within the clan who could tread the martial path and thus safeguard the Ling clan's wealth. It was precisely because they were spending the money of their clans or factions that it was unavoidable they would hesitate, weighing carefully whether such a terrifying sum should be spent. 30 million! At last, someone shattered the silence. It was a spiritual ocean tier elite from a middle-class clan. For the 8 great clans, one more spiritual pedestal tier elite would equal an additional pillar of peak military power, and was indeed significant. Yet, it would not be so great as to cause any truly solid change to their foundation. However, for a middle-class clan, if a spiritual pedestal tier elite appeared in their ranks, it would absolutely mean a complete transformation, lifting the clan to an entirely different level than before. Thus, middle-class clans were more desperate to obtain the foundation-building pill, and were also prepared to go to crazier lengths for it. 41 million. 42 million. 43 million. In the end, only 3 clans remained. The eyes of the representatives from these clans were all bloodshot, and they looked entirely as though they were ready to cast everything aside and spare no expense to seize the final foundation-building pill. Hey, even after swallowing the foundation-building pill, you would only have about a 10 to 20% chance to break through. Why must the 2 of you compete so ferociously with me? One of them said. Then why won't Brother Ma allow me to have this chance? Another countered. This is a foundation-building pill worth 13 stars. It's not merely a 10 to 20% chance, but is close to 30%. The third snorted coldly. If you can't afford to bid, then don't embarrass yourself. Then let's continue. At last, the price was set at 49 million. Everyone had long guessed that the final foundation-building pill would fetch the highest price, yet the sum that nearly reached 50 million still left all dumbstruck. That was the nature of an auction. There was no need for too many wealthy men. So long as there were at least 2 parties willing to bid, that was enough. Just like Ling Han and Chen Yunxiang, who had dueled with bids for the Swift Cloud talismans and sent the price soaring to 40 million. It was only because Chen Yunxiang could not produce so much cash that the earlier bidding had been nullified. Ling Han calculated briefly and could not help but feel a slight shock himself, because the 9 foundation building pills altogether had been sold for a total of 225 million. Even after the 14% service charge was deducted, that would still be almost double the sum of directly selling 1 pill for 10 million. Liu Yutong and Li Xichan also did the math, and were likewise shocked. Such an astronomical number was enough to compare with the annual total income of a great clan. Total income, not total profit. In other words, in this single day, Ling Han had earned more than a great clan's accumulated earnings over 1 full year. Alchemists truly earned far too much money, but that depended on the person. Aside from Ling Han, what other alchemist could refine these 9 foundation building pills without exploding a few dozen furnaces first? And if it were an Earth-grade alchemist, did an Earth-grade alchemist still need such an earthly thing as money? If an Earth-grade alchemist refined an Earth-grade middle-level or even high-level treasured pill, then even selling the whole of Rain Country would not be enough. This auction concluded smoothly, and Ling Han went backstage to settle accounts. The eldest imperial prince naturally thought he had gone to pay for his 3 Swift Cloud talismans and could never have imagined that Ling Han had gone to receive money instead. Moreover, The amount he was receiving was enough to make even an imperial prince like him stop breathing. Young Master Han, the 9 Foundation building pills have been auctioned off for a total of $225 million, and subtracting the 14% service charge, as well as the $10 million you withdrew in advance earlier on, there is still $183,500,000 left. Jia Boyun handed over a thick stack of monetary notes to Ling Han. Such a sum naturally could not possibly be paid in gold. He already knew that Ling Han was about to become a black grade, high-level alchemist, and could even possibly step into earth grade, and thus he addressed him with respect, hoping Ling Han could refine an earth grade pill that could help a spiritual pedestal tier elite break through. Otherwise, with his status, there would be no need for him to be so respectful to this extent. Ling Han smiled and received the money from him. He did not even spare it a second glance, merely stowing it away. He knew the other party would not dare to embezzle his money.